This is Abe Friedtanzer from Awards Radar, and I'm thrilled to be speaking with Mary Hollis Inboden about Kevin Can F Himself. How are you today, Mary?
I'm great. I was just asked if we dropped the F-bomb. I don't know if you're comfortable with that. May I ask permission now?
I'm fine with it, but is that how we're supposed to? That's the first question. How are we supposed to say the title?
Yeah, I think it's a real free space. We all kind of decided. I mean, I'm from down south, and around my mom's friends, I will sometimes censor, but mostly it's just kind of a fun way to say the fuck word.
Well, I know that I did an interview recently, and then I put it up on Instagram with captions, and so somebody said "people fuck with it," and it bleeped out "people" and kept "fuck" in there because somehow it just didn't work.
Skipped.
So perfectly appropriate for this interview only,
Right.
So I do think that this show works really well, but I'm wondering if when you first heard about it, it sounded like it would.
Okay. It was on the paper. It was the most exciting thing that I read that pilot season, which I think now has been 3 years ago. We had a COVID delay, like much of the world, but it was the most exciting thing I read, and the oddest. I flipped the page after the first 7 pages of a sitcom, and people who don't know what a sitcom looks like on the page, they're written differently. So you can see, even just looking at the black words on the white page, the way they're spaced to an actor, you can always go, oh, this is a multicam. And after about page 7 of Kevin Can Fuck Himself, I flipped the page, and this woman is standing there with a laundry basket. And I think that this line was, cut, but she was, her first line in single cam was, "I fucking hate my husband." And I was like, who are we invested in? What's going on? Because we opened so strongly on Kevin. So who's, and his name's in the title, at that point it was being called Kevin Can Fuck Himself. I'm so glad that never changed. But it was confusing, and I really didn't. I knew that I was auditioning for this character of Patty, who shows up, in the sitcom world. She's sitting on the end of the couch, sort of being surly and sardonic. She's a real grouch, and she's hanging out with these kind of loser guys. And the more I sort of explored it, and this pipe dream of this woman, this housewife, Allison, I was like, oh, there's something. I had to read it several times to get here, but there's something really exciting going on where it is not his show. And that made me feel really, really turned on, truly, because, I'm not a huge fan of those sort of thoughtless, male-led network sitcoms. I'm not really the audience for it, but I was so excited to see that this woman has a voice, and very shocked to hear that she had a platform where she was actually trying to decide if she was going to kill him, which is an extreme, for dramatic effect. But I was driven to the project after several reads by looking at the last scene of the first episode, and these 2 women characters talking to each other, and that you understand that they don't have a lot in common. And they've spent 10 years in this room really sort of not liking each other. And somehow at the end of that first episode, they help each other out. And it's not the news that they want to hear, but it is, it's Patty coming to Allison and saying, snap out of this, just be okay with where you are. It's not going to get better than this. And I thought even that was it was a kind gesture to do to this woman, to tell her the truth, that her husband spent all their money on tennis shoes from the internet. And that was enough for me. And then I was less scared of going in with this big Boston accent. I have a, naturally Southern accent. And I think they said, don't come in if you can't do a Boston accent. And I said, okay, I'm going to fight this. I went in and I did my best broad New York and somehow booked the role of Patty. And it's been really exciting.
That's great. I am from the Boston area, but not close enough to Worcester or Boston that I have a strong accent at all. But yes. It's definitely overwhelming. The show is drowning in accents, which I know it's supposed to be.
Yes. And I mean, it was very much written that way. On the page, it was written that way. And I know I love Boston so much. I love Worcester so much, where we're actually technically set. And I know that it's a very proud people, not only of their sports, their history, the whole thing. But if you mess it up, they'll let you know. And it's not good for actors who mess it up. So I was scared, but I went for it, and I'm really glad. It's been the highlight of my career so far.
So is it basically like filming two separate shows? You're making this sitcom and you're making this drama?
Yeah, it's like Annie and I joke all the time. My castmate and I, Annie Murphy. Some of you have heard of her.
Up and coming. She'll be famous someday.
Yes, great. She's delightful and my best friend. But she is I mean, in the sitcom, we were learning, how to do a sitcom. Essentially, we'd never done that before. I did come up in network single cam comedies, but hadn't done a sitcom. And most days on Kevin Can Fuck Himself, we were just watching the genius of the guys who were in Kevin's universe, right? And very much by design, we're pitching setups for them. And Patty's sort of only mode is to sort of try to tear down Allison, which all the guys are doing because Patty goes along with all the guys. But there's not really a voice. I remember the first day of filming in the sitcom, we started in the sitcom with the live studio audience and everything. And the guys are playing beer pong, and I wanted so badly to get in there and play beer pong. And the show creator, Valerie Armstrong, came over and very smartly and efficiently said, they never let you play. And after 10 years, you know that. So don't pretend like you're about to have a turn. Like when you say I'm up next, you know that you're not, and it's not going anywhere. So we were always super excited to get into the single cam part, Annie and I, because it felt like we could take a breath. In the single cam, it felt like the world was ours again and not Kevin's. We weren't sort of like pawns in his universe. But it was exciting and a challenge to both degrees to sort of make this bright, shiny sitcom that could absolutely work on network television right now today, and a dark, gritty single cam.
It's been a while since I've watched the show. I watched it when it was coming out, yeah. And I feel like I heard a lot about it at the beginning, but I haven't heard that much about it. And I'm wondering, does it seem like a lot of people, I just don't know if people have discovered this yet. Do you think a lot of people are watching it?
I've often wondered if it's going to be like studied later, like if it's going to be like make lists that are like, here's something unique. I think it's the first time it's ever been done, the sort of like genre bending. And I'm, with shows like WandaVision too, I think we're on to something with that sort of being a tool that's used. I've wondered if, and this might sound gross because I'm an actor in the show, if it's got some sort of like cult, thing that like it will be this thing that people sort of reference later. I do know that when it was created, when it was thought of by Valerie Armstrong, it was right after Trump was elected in 2016. It was written in a lot of rage. So that's where that idea started the fuel. So I think in a way there's some like timeliness to it. And the world is changing and evolving, and we're always learning so much. And I feel like when we know better, we do better. But yeah, I don't know. I think it does remain a little bit undiscovered, and that's all right with me, because I feel like when they come to it, it is sort of challenging the senses in a really cool way, and it does have something to say.
Yeah, and it's funny when you mentioned WandaVision, I immediately thought, I was like, oh yeah, another show that was really popular, and then they were like, just kidding, it's over, we're not doing a second season. And in this case, I know there is a second season, but that's it. So yeah. Did you know that going in, that this was only supposed to be 2 seasons?
No, I didn't. I thought, and I think everybody was sort of under the impression that we might have, a few, but I think AMC decided that it works better as sort of a limited series, and I can't disagree. I haven't talked this over with my producer friends, bosses on the show, but I think that after we explore, she either has to kill him or not, that's just sort of the fight that we're up against in a show like this. And I think have a really interesting second season coming, where they've figured out a way to continue telling the story. But I believe that it's smart to say what you need to say and then move on. I'm not sure that it's a show that can last and last just based on the idea that, Kevin can fuck himself and she has to kill him or not. Like he lives or he dies, and at some point that's figured out. So hopefully it's a satisfying second season for all.
Well, I remember I'm thinking a lot about how the first season ended, and for the few people who may be watching the show and watching this interview, if there are any of you out there, of course we hope there are, it really, even just, it's a dark show in general, but seems to take an especially dark turn in a way that doesn't just involve Kevin. Do you think will season 2 be sort of even, I don't want to reduce it to the dark as an idea, but.
Right. I think that it was a goal of the producers to maintain that sort of like, this is a show that can exist on CBS fall lineup as a sitcom. So you will see Kevin has a strong voice. He continues to sort of interfere with all of our lives. But bringing Neil into the single cam, sorry if that's a spoiler, but for our mighty fans, I think they know that Neil comes into single cam, and I think that getting to see one of the male characters who we always are sort of bitching that he's toxic, you really get to see it in real life, and it's not a punchline, and there's nothing really funny about Neil in the single cam. He's a really, really dysfunctional and ugly character, who really, really struggles through life. And he's one of my favorite parts of the sitcom, which I think is what Kevin says so well. What you see is not always what you get. And while we've been laughing at these men and these situations that we put them in, they're sometimes really devastating to the people that they're around, and they don't have to suffer any of the consequences of those actions. So getting to watch Neil in the second season was really exciting for me in single cam.
I'm looking forward to that. Do you know when we'll see that? Is that coming soon?
I've heard end of August, early September.
That's not so far. Okay.
Yeah. So
that's great.
There's that news.
I was also looking over your IMDb resume before this, just because I know I've seen you in this. I've seen you in a few other things like The Righteous Gemstones, but I also saw that one of your early roles was in a show that I find to be very serious, but also very underappreciated, and that was Boss.
I love Boss. Oh my gosh. That also, thank you, Abe. That's so correct. Like Boss, truly too, as an actor, I think that those are really exciting roles because I've never aspired to like celebrity or fame in any sort of way. And if I can stay with these shows that are really good, have something to say, like are interesting, even if they don't always fulfill the idea. Boss was something that was so exciting. And I was just very lucky to get cast on that and to have, that was really where I cut my teeth in TV. I think I had one line on it, and they said, well, she didn't fuck that up, so let's give her a few more.
I also, relevant to our conversation from before, I think at that point when it started, I was also watching Scandal, maybe in season 2. Yes. And I was like, these two are sort of similar, but Boss is just like, so like that's the sitcom equivalent on the network. Yes. And then Boss is just like the real thing. It's like these people are, no one is a good person. Like everybody is, and it was just so fast. So I stopped watching Scandal and I kept going with Boss, and I was ready to come back for season 3, season 4, but another 2-season show, which was unfortunate.
You're so right about Scandal sort of being the situational version of everything that was happening on Boss, because at some point, like they do something good and like somebody learns something, like there's a group hug at the end. Like they did. I love Scandal, by the way. Like I thought it was very, very great television. But Boss, like they never really learn anything. They just, if you got a problem, kill it.
Right. That's how I always describe it. Someone who discovers that he's dying, he's like, let me just take more power before I die, instead of doing anything good for the world.
At the end of that, every script I got of that show, I was like, are they going to kill Jackie? That's the character that I play. Nobody was safe. I had like 2 or 3 lines on every episode that I was in, and I was like, Jackie's up next. They'll find a way to get rid of her.
Well, since we're talking about early roles and also strong accents, I noticed that your first credit, I think, was on the Chicago Code.
Yes.
Which is another show that I liked a lot that was not fated well for, this world, even though Jennifer Beals, Jason Clarke, like great, really great people. You were part of all these really great but very short-lived projects.
Thank you. I try not to think it's me. I just don't tell any of the major studios or networks that my history here. I really like Chicago Code too. I was like a local Chicago actor, and it was I'd been seen in a play, and they brought me on to say a couple of lines. And again, I think it was just about it. Things do come and go so quickly, and they work for a lot of reasons or not. But I'm very fortunate to get on these sort of exciting shows that have a little following that people remember. I mean, it is exciting. It doesn't happen very often, but when I get recognized for, you were that girl on Boss. And I'm like, 3 people saw that and you're one of them. Thank you so much. So I think that's an exciting career. That's a working actor journeyman career. And I'm very, very proud of it. I've done this interview and I might not ever work again, because now we've highlighted the fact that my shows come and go so quickly here.
Well, for my last question, what's next?
Oh gosh. Well, I do get to do season 3 of The Righteous Gemstones. I'm headed to Charleston next week to start that. I love that crew so much. Dave
And a great opportunity to use your authentic Southern accent, right?
Yes, she's it's a little bit like pumped up for sure, but I don't have to worry about the accent, which is really nice. And I love those guys so much. And other than that, I'm looking forward to seeing what comes my way, truly. And I will dig and find something that's real interesting to me, like another Boss or Kevin Can Fuck Himself, or that's how I like to do it. I don't take everything, but I like to do the ones I like to do.
That's great. Well, this has been a delight. It's really great to get to speak with you, and I'm excited to see you in a bit role somewhere coming soon.
Thank you, Abe. Very nice meeting you. Nice talking to you.
You too. Take care.